Joining us today on the Buzz Pod is the most grizzled vet I've ever played with. He's the first born and raised Oklahoma City hockey player to play in the NHL. He has had an illustrious career in the U.S. and in Europe. Joining us today, Matt Donovan. Thank you for joining us, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
A great intro.
All of Oklahoma, not just Oklahoma City. All of Oklahoma.
All of Oklahoma. Actually, that's where I want to start is like a couple things. What was growing up in Oklahoma like? And how many bars is your jersey at in Oklahoma?
I don't know about the bars thing. Probably not very many because
one at least?
Maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, so my dad runs a rink in Oklahoma. So he's originally from Boston. That's how I got into hockey. He was in a college exchange program and went to some small town in Oklahoma that didn't have any hockey. It was like 2 hours from Oklahoma City. Zero hockey, Boston kid. Met my mom and fell in love and stayed there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your mom's from Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Small town?
Yeah, small town. Like not a lot of people.
Wow.
I don't know how many, but
Not
zero hockey, zero, like a small football town.
Okay.
So met my mom, got married right out of college. They both moved to Oklahoma City where they were both accountants or something.
Okay.
And my dad hadn't played hockey since moving to Oklahoma. Then got into like men's league at the local rink in Oklahoma City. Got back into youth hockey and coaching high school hockey and stuff. And then back into working at the rink and then started running the rink. And so ever since I've born, he's ran a rink in Oklahoma.
Wow. And Oklahoma, like you can talk about it, but I think the closest, I don't even know if it's close, but the closest I've played to Oklahoma is Omaha, I think.
Yeah.
Is it close?
Yeah, it is close.
Okay.
Dallas would be the biggest like hub.
Okay.
So
I played in Allen.
Yeah, there you go.
All
so
right.
That's probably 2.5, 3 hours from Oklahoma City. So growing up in Oklahoma, we had borderline A teams.
Okay.
I tell
I
the
played
kids,
Sport A.
there you go. So I think we ended up playing double A, but we should have been A. We probably had 20 kids max at each level that I played on a travel team.
So tryouts weren't too hard.
No, they weren't too hard. Plus my dad was a coach, so automatically made the team.
Yeah,
Captain. So yeah, it was traveling to Dallas pretty much every weekend growing up.
That's the first team on your elite prospects is
Yeah.
Dallas U18.
And it doesn't even have any games played.
Yeah, well, it was probably before they took stats. That's how long ago I played.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. How was that first year away from home, like in Dallas?
Yeah, so there was a couple kids before me that had moved away, like had to do the same thing because, like I said, we had double A hockey in Oklahoma. Right. You had to move away eventually if you wanted to, and usually it was to Dallas because they had triple A hockey close to home. It was the closest place. A lot of the Oklahoma people had good connections with the coaches in Dallas because it's so close. They know all the coaches. So guys had done it before me, so it was pretty easy. It's one of those things like you have to make a decision so early in your life. Like, do you want to play hockey?
Yeah.
I mean, kids at that age are usually playing 3 or 4 sports still.
Yeah.
At that decision.
And they're just getting into like girls and all that. And it's
like,
I gotta move away from all this.
Yeah, I just finished my freshman year of high school and you move away when you're a sophomore in high school when kids are just starting to get good at football, baseball, they're playing all these different sports. So you have to decide like, hey, do I want to be a good hockey player and play at a high level, and what do I want to do with it? So yeah, I think it's tougher on your parents and my parents. I know my mom cried probably for a year straight.
Me too.
She lost her baby 4 years too soon.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was tough on my parents, but it was easy for me because all I did was I went to school. I lived 2 houses away from the high school with a great billet family. I went to high school, got in my car, went to practice, came home, did my homework, ate dinner, went to sleep. Like I didn't do anything else. It was hockey. And when you're playing AAA hockey in Dallas, especially, there's not a lot of teams around you, so you're traveling so much.
Yeah.
So I think I was at school probably half the time.
Yeah.
Half the school.
You miss every Monday and Friday.
Yeah.
So you're there like Tuesday, Wednesday, and half of Thursday.
Yeah.
You got to leave on Thursday.
Yeah.
First game's Friday.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
that's
pretty
awesome.
easy for me.
Yeah. And what was the USHL like? Because you went from AAA, you went from Oklahoma where you went from A to AAA to junior, like the best junior league there is in the USHL. And that was a huge year for you because you had 30 points in 59 games as a defenseman. You were drafted 4th round by the Islanders. Just a huge year for your career. But talk about how the USHL even came about and then jumping into it and what your experience was like that season.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like,
tore it up.
I went from Oklahoma to the USHL in 2 years. So it was like people always ask me, the kids at the camp would ask me, like, did you dream of playing in the NHL when you were really young? Yes and no. Like, I'm from Oklahoma. No one had ever done it before. So I didn't watch a lot of NHL. I grew up going to Central Hockey League games. Central Hockey League?
Yeah,
I don't even
a lot
think
of
it's a
fight.
league anymore.
No more.
It was all fights.
Yeah.
So that's who I grew up looking up to. And now I look back at like the Central Hockey League guys. It's like, oh my, these guys are.
Yeah,
they weren't. Yeah,
I would have been great in
that. Yeah. They weren't much of a hockey players, but some of them are still around Oklahoma and great guys. They know a lot about hockey. But back to what I was saying was, like, I didn't grow up thinking I'm going to play in the NHL because no one had done it before from Oklahoma. So I just kind of took it like a day at a time. Maybe I was just naive and I didn't know if I was good or not. Like, I just played.
Right.
I went out there and played.
It almost sounds like you were just playing, you're very good. And then once a set of eyes got on you, it just kind of was like the next level, like this kid's a player. When did you commit to Denver?
It was at the end of that year in Dallas.
So after your first year AAA. So clearly whoever recruited you, who recruited you?
Derek Lalonde.
So he recruited you. So now he works in the NHL. So he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. So like, everything happens so quick for me. Like,
that was your that's what I was gonna ask too. That was your moment of like, oh, I'm good.
not even really, like, kind of. So it happened so quick that, like, after that year in Dallas, my dad would be like, hey, where do you want to play college hockey? It's like, I don't know, I haven't even thought about that. Like, I'm a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
Am I gonna play college hockey?
Do I have to graduate high school to go to college?
It's like, I don't know. But obviously at that time, schools were looking at me, and my dad knew that, my coaches knew that, but
they kept you in the dark because they don't want you thinking.
No, I didn't know that.
You didn't even need to know that.
That's the thing nowadays. Kids have the internet. Kids commit so early. They have YouTube, like Twitter, all this stuff. I didn't have any of that. So I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know what other kids were doing. I didn't know their stats. I didn't even know my stats. Like, obviously on Elite Prospects, I didn't have stats.
0 games played. Got him a commitment to Denver.
Yeah.
That's a great year.
It's a great year.
So maybe I was just young and naive, or I didn't care, or like I was just living.
A clear mind, living your life, just having fun.
Yeah.
You get on the sheet and the world don't matter.
Back to committing to Denver was after my year in Dallas, I went on a trip with my parents to Denver.
How were those back then?
It was good. Like, I didn't have like an overnight. It was just during the day with my parents. We walked around with the coaches.
PG.
Yeah.
Parental guidance.
I went into George Grodecki's office at the end of the day, and he was like, hey, we want to offer you a full ride. And it's like, I didn't know this was coming. Like,
full ride. What does that entail?
And I was still 16, I think I was still 16, maybe just turned 17.
You're like, I haven't graduated high school.
I'm a sophomore in high school. I've got a long way to go before I come here, but I loved it. And then we went and visited CC the same weekend. They wanted me to come visit. So I didn't visit any other schools, didn't talk to any other schools. And like a week later, I was like, I love Denver. It's the closest.
How far? Yeah, how far is that?
It's a 2-hour flight.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
That's
a 10-hour drive, but 2-hour flight. But it's the closest D1 program to home.
That'll work.
Yeah. And what about the draft? Did you go?
The NHL draft?
NHL draft.
No. So back to that. So I went into the USHL, got drafted first round in the USHL. Didn't know anything about that either.
Mm-hmm.
We had 1 or 2 guys that had played in the USHL before me from Oklahoma. Mick Berge, so my best friend's Josh Berge, his older brother, kind of paved the way for us. He played in the USHL before us. I think he's an 86, 85, 86, somewhere in there. So a couple years older than me. So we would actually drive up and go watch him in the USHL. He played in Lincoln.
Oh,
So
in the ice box.
yeah. So that was my first taste of the USHL. I still was young, didn't know what it was. Like,
Did you have to wear a cage? Or
yeah,
could you
my
wear a
first
visor?
year.
Yeah.
First year, I was 17, so I had to wear a cage.
Yeah.
My junior year. So that gets into my first year in the USHL. I think my dad always kept me humble because, like, I remember driving up to the Cedar Rapids camp after I got drafted in the first round. He was like, this doesn't mean anything. Like, you still have to make the team. So it's like, maybe it was my dad telling me I'm still not good.
Constant
Like,
reminders. Yeah. You have to prove yourself.
Yeah, you haven't done anything yet. You're not on this team. There's no guarantees. You need to work hard. You need to go out there and prove that you belong here. Which I think, coming from Oklahoma, I did have to prove that to people, because
Absolutely.
no one from Oklahoma, like, it's not someone from Minnesota who they do it all the time. It's like, this kid from Oklahoma, how good could he be?
Yeah, and you're the outsider coming in, so everybody around you automatically wants to see you fail.
Yep.
They're like, "Who is this guy? Send him back to Oklahoma."
We've never heard of this kid before.
Exactly.
Also, how was it like meshing with the guys in the USHL? Because you being from Oklahoma, not a hockey hotbed, like those guys that are from Minnesota and other hockey hotbeds, they usually all kind of know each other or know of each other before going to the USHL.
Yeah.
And especially back then with no internet, you probably knew nobody.
I didn't know anyone. No, I knew not one person.
That's crazy.
But there was a kid named Paul Phillips, another defenseman, that also got drafted to Cedar Rapids, and he just committed to Denver as well. So we made an instant connection.
Nice.
So he's one of my best friends, still to this day. Best man at my wedding. So we played 2 years in Cedar Rapids, and then we're roommates for 2 years at Denver. So
And then you ditched him.
yeah, and then I ditched
and so talk about Denver.
True freshman, right?
Yeah,
True freshman. That's really hard to do for those who don't know. But true freshman, you went in there and 21 points in 36 games as a true freshman defenseman. I mean, talk about that, and just like a lot of things play into a good season. Your true freshman year in NCAA, maybe opportunity and all that stuff, and also your work ethic. But just talk about your experience at Denver.
It's still the same way. Like, I had gotten drafted. I played 2 years in the USHL. My second year in the USHL, I did really well.
51 points in 57 games.
That was the draft year. 50.
No, that was after
draft.
Oh, after you got to. Okay.
So my second year in the USHL, after I got drafted, you talked about, did I go to the draft? I had no clue I was getting drafted.
Oh, you didn't talk to any teams?
No. So I talked to two teams. LA came up and talked to me at one point during the season, and I had a chat with one of the LA guys. I don't know if he was a scout or a player development, I don't remember, but he was like, yeah, we're thinking about drafting you. He's like, do you know, like, if you're gonna get drafted? I was like, I have no clue. Like, I don't.
They just want to know if other teams.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. And so that was one team that I thought I was gonna get drafted by, and then the New York Islanders sent me this packet that's like, it's like 100 pages, and it's like,
Did you read it?
yeah, you have to like answer questions.
Oh, okay.
And
It's like an
send it back.
application.
It's like it was like a mental test.
Who was the GM there?
Gar Snow was the GM.
Okay.
So I didn't talk to anyone. They just sent me this packet. I sent it back. I must have had a good mental state that day.
It's like in The Miracle when you give them the
Exactly.
test.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Except I actually filled it out.
Yeah. You took
Step right behind him like this. No.
Yeah, so I got drafted. I was sitting at home, saw my name on the computer. I was watching it because I knew
there was some interest.
There was some interest, and there was kids that I knew getting drafted, so I was watching it. And yeah, my name.
Let's
came
talk
up.
about that draft though. Thick draft. Do
Yeah,
you remember the first
5?
Or do you remember the first overall?
Stamkos.
Yeah.
But I mean, who was it? Bogosian was in that
He was
draft.
third.
Yeah.
Second. Who was second?
It's another defenseman.
Yeah,
Is it John Carlson? No, he was
he was
in there.
15.
He was later.
Yeah. No, Eric Carlson was 15. Anyways, just a sick draft.
A lot of D men.
A lot of D.
Yeah.
A lot of D. You were up there.
Drew Doughty, number 2.
Yeah, Drew Doughty, who's Go through
Zach
the top 10.
Bogosian was into the Atlanta Thrashers.
Yeah.
Alex Pietrangelo, number 4.
Yeah.
Luke Shen, number 5. Holy right-handed defenseman. Nikita Filatov, Colin Wilson, Mikhail Bodker, Josh Bailey, Cody Hodgson.
Yeah. Good draft.
Yeah,
Top 10.
great draft.
Wow.
But talk about like your experience. I mean, you were watching it on the screen. What's your reaction?
It was just shock. Like, I think maybe I was the first. I think there had been maybe someone that was born in Oklahoma that had gotten drafted before.
But first born and raised.
Yeah, first born and raised to get drafted.
Wow.
So it was a cool experience. I was getting phone calls from like news and
To the house phone.
yeah, to the house phone.
I think of a wall.
Yeah.
And mom's like, it's for you, Matt. Come over.
Yeah. You gotta pull the wire like all the way across the house.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so then I had another year in the USHL, did pretty well. Still, like I had a lot of points but like I was still just playing.
Oblivious, just on the sheet, having fun.
What about that experience after your freshman year at Denver? You played U20 World Championship.
Yeah.
That team was stacked too.
Yeah.
5 points in 7 games for you as a defenseman. I'm gonna keep adding as a defenseman because it's crazy to me. But how did that opportunity come about, and what was it like?
Another thing where I don't really know. Like no one really told me. Like I think my coaches knew that people were from USA Hockey were coming to watch me, and I had a chance to make the World Junior team. But I had no clue. No one told me, so I was just playing. I got invited to like the pre-World Junior camp during the summer in Lake Placid. So I knew that maybe I had a chance, but at the same time, I was like, wow, top 40 or 50 kids. Maybe that's pretty cool that I got invited, but I didn't know I was going to make it. I knew that I was playing pretty well, but didn't think about it. Just playing for Denver.
And okay, and then so where was World Jays that year?
Saskatoon.
Okay, in Canada. So
Yeah.
you guys won gold?
Yeah.
And did you play Canada in Canada for the gold medal?
Yeah.
Oh, talk about that. What was that like?
It was unbelievable. Like I've never had an atmosphere like that before. It was in Saskatoon. I don't know how much that building holds, maybe 10 to 12,000, but playing against Canada, championship game, yeah, gold medal game in Canada, won in overtime. There's the famous John Carlson goal.
Yeah.
OT.
Yep.
That was one of my best hockey memories.
And what a team, like group of guys. I mean, probably a great celebration with the boys in Saskatoon after.
Yeah, it was fun.
What a squad
Wow.
there. What a squad you guys had, and what an experience that must have been. Did that kind of I mean, I know from talking to you in these past couple minutes, like, and from playing with you these past couple weeks, that you know, your ego isn't huge and you're a pretty humble guy. But after that experience, you know, playing World Junior Championship, getting 5 points in 7 games, winning the gold medal, were you kind of like, okay, I'm one of the top guys?
Maybe I knew, but I didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
You know? So my biggest thing is like, there's always someone better than you. There's always someone tougher than you.
Yeah.
You know, like, you better stay humble because someone's always better than you. Someone's always outworking you. So I just, in my mind, there's no way to be cocky. Because I know there's someone always better than me.
Yeah. And I love that mindset.
Point.
That's a great one for kids, because I find kids, like, they get one accomplishment, right? And this is even myself when I was younger, and taking it back to when you mentioned that there was no Twitter and people weren't tweeting their commitments. I remember when I committed, it was basically so that I could tweet, you know, like I was like, everyone's tweeting their commitment. I want to do it too, you know? And I remember after I did it, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm good. Yeah. You know, and once you get that, you sink, right? Because then you think that you are here, and then you start to go here because the other guys that don't think they're here are going like this, right? So that's a great mindset.
I think, Dono, you're a natural leader. And I realized that right away when we were training together before I even played my first year, and you were running us through skates at USM, and the way you would just come to the rink prepared, come in, do your work. And I just want to get your perspective on leadership and team leadership. And have you always been a leader growing up on every team, just as you've entered the room, guys kind of gravitate towards you? Because as a younger guy, going to you, like you're the vet. I'm like, yeah, I'm asking Dono. Like, I don't know. Sorry, Schneids, but I don't know if Schneids is most approachable. I'm gonna pick Dono first. Can you speak on just leadership for you?
I think I had, like, growing up in Oklahoma, being one of the better players, my dad was, I had to be a leader. Like, I had to go out and work the hardest and show the other kids,
This is why I'm good.
this is why we need you to work hard, and because we're not gonna succeed by having two good players on our team.
Right.
We're an A team playing double A. Like, we need help, you know?
Yeah.
So I think I always had that where my dad would say, hey, you need to be a leader, you need to lead by example and pull everyone with you. I think that starts at a young age. But yeah, as my career kept going, I was a captain in USHL. I don't know. I think it's natural, but I think it starts when you're young.
Yeah.
What you have to go through, who your parents are, who your coaches are. I think it all kind of comes into how you become a leader.
Yeah. You just have a very selfless mindset. You know, as we've been asking questions, you just say, like,
That's what I think it's
haven't been
about.
thinking.
It's about character. It's about, like,
It
your
is.
character.
It is.
It's got
No.
nothing to do with your game. But let's get into, before we get into your pro career, can't believe we haven't even gotten touched that yet, but your first pro contract came after your second year at Denver.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about that second year at Denver? You had 32 points in 42 games. And did you know you were signing after that year, or did that kind of come about at the end of the season?
It came about at the end of the season. So you lose in college. You go to the NCAA tournament and you lose, and it's like, okay, what's next? I was sitting in class in Denver, and I knew that there was other guys my age that were signing, that I knew I was just as good, and I thought I had done everything that I could at Denver. Like, I played really well. I thought I was one of the better players at Denver, and I was ready to start pro, and I was sitting in class. I think it was like an accounting class, and my buddy Paul Phillips always tells the story. He's like, I look at him and I'm like, what am I doing here? I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be in accounting anymore. So I got up and I left, and that was it. That was it. I stopped going to school, and I was like, I'm going to be a pro hockey player. I want to do this.
And you never went back and got your degree?
Nope.
You didn't know the game.
Yeah. I always tell my parents I'm going to go back and get it, which maybe I will. It's pretty easy nowadays doing everything online.
Yeah.
So once the kids get a little older, maybe a little more time.
That's why you had another kid to give yourself more time.
Sorry, Mom.
That's so funny. But that's like me. I remember sitting in class. I mean, I got 0 credits in college, but I went to college for 1 year, and I remember sitting in class, a 3-hour class. It was my first week of school, 3-hour class. I had practice after, and I'm 30 minutes in, and I'm like, man, I need a nap before practice. And so I get up and I leave. I go take a nap. I had a great practice, but I never went back to class. And then that was it for me. But I didn't get an NHL deal after that. I started in the coast. I'll get there soon. But talk about just like signing that first NHL deal with the Islanders. And then good thing you left class, because you were probably on a plane soon after, because you finished the season in Bridgeport, 5 points in 6 AHL games. And we've had a lot of guys that get that little cup of coffee at the end of their college career. Zach had his, and they always talk about how important that is to kick off your pro career. Can you just talk about your experience?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's such a crazy thing to go from college to now you go live in a hotel for a month and you're getting per diem, and this is what you do for a living. Like, you go to the rink and you go back to the hotel, and you're doing nothing. And you have no family.
And there's no 18 and 24-year-olds. It's 30-year-olds.
Yeah, it's 30-year-olds who are going back to their apartments to hang out with their family, and you're going back to the hotel, and you're sitting there like, what did I just do? Like,
you're like, hey, like, with this per diem, can I order any food I want? Or, like, you guys want me eating specific things?
Yeah, you're on your own, and you're a pro hockey player. So, but it was a good experience. I did pretty well, and you go in, it gives you that little boost going into summer, being like, okay, this is what I need to do to make it to the NHL the next year. And I had a good couple games, and then went into that summer thinking, hey, I want to make it to the NHL now.
Yeah, and then your first full year pro, you played 3 NHL games. What was that first NHL game experience like for you?
Crazy. It was, so I played the whole year in Bridgeport. Did pretty well, and they gave me a couple games at the end of the year because I think they wanted to reward me
Give
for
you a
playing.
taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was unreal. My first game was in New Jersey. I think the starting lineup was Kovalchuk, Parisi, and who else was on that team? Some other big
Maybe
name.
Henrique or no?
No, he wasn't big by then. It was some.
Gianta.
It wasn't Gianna. It was someone else really good. So it was like, wow, this is
The national.
this is it. So it was a cool experience.
And was there a lot of goosebumps in the locker room, like looking around and stuff? Or
Oh
were you-
yeah. Yeah. I mean, anytime even now, if I get called up, it's like, oh, here we go. It's
Yeah.
like, this is it.
Yeah.
Your
Still.
first lap.
I don't even remember if I got a
A rookie
Rookie
lap.
lap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all for the internet. They're
Yeah,
like,
now they exaggerate. We get like 2
yeah,
laps.
they're like, this has been a tradition from 1800. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But
18.
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. And then can you just kind of stop me when your kids are born in the middle? Because I don't know when your kids were born. Were your kids born yet? I know
No.
your wife and you
Yeah.
kind of a childhood sweethearts
Yeah.
and met in 6th grade
Yeah.
and rekindled in college. I saw this interview of you on YouTube, did
Yeah.
my research. How you doing? But
Good job.
but yeah. So
It's a
so
professional podcast
so no kids yet. Were you married?
Nope. So
Yeah.
you
married?
Professional podcast.
Yeah.
That's only fitting.
No, so we were dating started officially dating my freshman year in college. So we did long distance until she went to Oklahoma State. So did long distance all through college, and when I turned pro, my first 2 years pro. So she would come and visit and stuff.
Right.
And then when she graduated, we got engaged, and because we're from Oklahoma, so you can't. Her family wouldn't accept that.
Yeah.
She would come move with me
Yeah.
without being engaged.
Yeah.
So got engaged.
What year was that?
That was after my second year in Bridgeport.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So the next year was when she moved up. I made the New York Islanders.
Yeah,
Out
your
of
best
camp.
season. Coincidence?
Yeah. Yeah. So coincidence, yes, but we also lived in a hotel that whole year because her first year of living with me was in a hotel. for a
Yeah.
full
The
year.
hotel treatment.
Yeah.
Yep.
With a dog. The next year made the Islanders out of camp again. That's when I only played 12 games, a healthy scratch for
But you're
7.
there all season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got an apartment, so we were there all season.
That's nice.
Healthy scratch for 70 games.
That's not.
Yeah.
Nice.
Not
That's not
nice.
nice. Actually, here's a good question. What's harder on the mental side of it? Is playing 52 games but living in a hotel, or having your home but only playing 12 games?
That is a good question. That's a very good question. Yeah, living in a hotel was not fun because you're on the chopping block at all times. Like you go into the rink, you're nervous, which sucks. It's not a good feeling going in.
It's a tryout every day.
Yeah.
Every day is game 7.
Yes. And how are you expected to play when that's your life is you're going into the rink to practice every day.
And you're like, am I fired?
Yeah. And you're trying to sneak out of the rink without someone talking to you because you don't want to get sent down. So
No, can I see you in my office? No, I gotta go. I gotta go.
No, not today. So yeah, that's tough. But the next year, it's a little more comfortable because they tell you to get a place. You know you're going to be there, but at the same time, you're going into work being like, okay, I'm going to try and get in the lineup today.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's just not how it works. Like they have other plans. Like I was the 8th defenseman that carried 8D all year. So if there's not very many injuries, I'm not going to get in very many games.
And you had, I'm sure you had the healthiest decor
Yeah.
in the NHL that year.
Yeah. So that was a tough year too. but I did get to play Game 6 and Game 7 against Ovechkin that year.
Yeah.
First round. So
Dick,
that was
I
pretty
heard
cool.
about that.
So how was that jumping into the middle of the playoffs,
Yeah.
in let alone Game 6 and
With
7?
with probably lower confidence than maybe you usually have because you hadn't been in the line.
So this is the thing. So there were stretches. So I don't think I played a game that year until like game 23, 24. And then maybe played a handful of games and then didn't play for a 30-game stretch. Played a handful of games and then didn't play. I don't know how long I didn't play before those 2 playoff games, but it was one of those things where I talked to my dad and he was like, hey, you have nothing to lose. Like you haven't played all year.
Yeah.
You have 0 expectations.
Yeah.
Go out, have fun, play hard, work your ass off and see what happens. So I went out there. I didn't play with any nerves, like just went out and played.
Good for you.
In the playoffs
In
in the
the
NHL.
game 6, both elimination games, and played really well. And I think that's just from another talking to from my dad was like, hey, you got nothing to lose. Go play.
Yeah, that's probably such a crazy experience for your wife. I'm thinking because now I'm married, right? And it's such a difference when you look at, where you're gonna play and how the setup is and all that matters. Because I remember before I got married, I was like, I can live in a shoebox.
Yeah.
I just want a spot on the roster, right?
Yeah.
Or now it's completely different. So your wife was probably just like, what? This is the NHL.
Yeah.
Like,
What did I get myself into living in a hotel?
oh, this is the
Yeah.
everyone's DMing her like, how's the NHL? And she's like, oh.
Yeah, I'm in a hotel with a dog. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so crazy to look at it because I always talk about that on this podcast is how people see things from the outside versus how it's actually going on the inside, right? People are looking at you. People in Oklahoma are like,
He made it. He's living the dream.
He's the man. He's living the dream. And Donald's just like, can I please get a housing letter?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's just
So another thing for kids or whoever's listening was like, I was in the NHL. No, I was living in a hotel. I was maybe getting sent down one day, called up the next day. But it was another thing where my dad was like, you know how many people would kill to be in your position?
Yeah.
So I always had that.
I'd kill someone for that.
Exactly.
I wouldn't tell anyone, but I'd kill someone.
That was like my mindset. Like some days it sucked going into the rink knowing I wasn't going to play, or going into the rink being nervous because I thought I was going to get sent down. So you don't play well, but at the same time, I had my dad telling me like, hey, there are a million guys that would kill to be in your position.
Yeah, literally murder.
Yes. So that was like my mindset most days was be a good teammate, because if you're not, someone else will be, and someone will take your place. So be a good teammate, work hard, and try and have fun and enjoy where you're at.
Yeah, that's awesome. Seems like your dad is really the reason for your success. Like, it's crazy because your dad knew about hockey, so he knew what to feed you.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I can speak for myself. My dad knows nothing about hockey, and he did an amazing job, like, getting me to where I had to go. But I remember calling my dad, like, after a good game or bad game, and he's like, you did amazing.
Yeah.
You're the best. Sometimes that's really not what you need to hear. But after that first year where you were living in a hotel, you played in the USA World Cup of Hockey, stacked team.
Yeah,
right?
World Championships.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, World Championships, not
Yeah.
World Cup of
I
Hockey.
don't think
Sorry.
they had the World Cup.
No, that's new.
That's my bad. So World Championships. But can you talk about that experience? Where was that?
That was in Belarus, Minsk.
Wow.
Yeah, that was cool. Another thing where I got a call and got invited, and I was like, yeah, I'm coming. I didn't know really anything about it, but I knew it was for Team USA. So anytime you get a call to play for your country, it's a really cool experience. So went, played, had a really good team. I think we lost in the quarterfinals, but it was a cool experience. Like I said, anytime you can play for your country, it's a cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so after that year was the year we talked about where you had 12 games, but you had your housing letter. So
yeah,
it was kind of nice, but kind of not nice. But the following year, I believe that summer you were traded, right, to Buffalo?
No, just I became since I only played a certain amount of games, I became I think that's a Group 6 unrestricted free agent. So I just became a free agent. So I just signed with Buffalo.
You signed with Buffalo, and you spent the whole year 31 points in 73 games in Rochester.
Yeah, I actually made Buffalo out of camp. So I was up with Buffalo for like 2 or 3 weeks, didn't get any games. The same thing as the year before. I was just practicing, working hard, trying to get in the lineup, and then they sent me down and they had 0 injuries.
Oh my goodness. So you're just knocking on the door, then you're just like, all right, I'm gonna be patient, I'm gonna work on my game.
But at the same time, you see my stats, I didn't have a great year because I only played 12 games the year before.
Right.
So it kind of hurt me.
You missed a full year of hockey
Yeah.
of like the game reps, game situations.
Yeah. And I always say like there's nothing worse than being healthy and like not playing games, because you start to think to yourself, I don't know about you, but at least me, when I'm in that situation, it's like, wow, like, there's guys playing through little injuries and you're like, I'm healthy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't think I'm good enough to,
Yeah.
so it kills you inside. But then you got to play a full season in the American League. And then what was that thought process like going to Sweden, going overseas to Frölunda? I mean, I've heard amazing things about the Swedish Hockey League.
Yeah. So that's another thing where I didn't know it was going to happen. I knew I didn't have a great year. But my agent, he was like, yeah, we'll wait till free agency, see what happens, see if anything, a couple teams are interested. And then I had a ex-teammate message me and be like, hey, would you be interested? My GM's asking me about you. Would you be interested in coming over? And I was like, nah, I want to give the NHL another chance. Like, I'm going to stay here. I didn't even think about it. Like, Europe wasn't even a thought. And then free agency came and it was like, okay, this team's offering this. But the Swedish team called again and they're very interested. This is what they're going to offer. Do you want to try it? Like, it's good money. And it's like, he's like, if you have a good year there, it's going to set you up to come back because it's a really good league. Guys go over there and come back all the time. I think it'll help you. The hockey's really good. It's different. You can go experience Europe. So yeah, we signed there and with the thought process of coming back and not giving up on the NHL.
Right. And then 15 points in 50 games that year. And you ended up signing back in Frölunda. So like, did you like it there?
Loved it there. It was awesome. Gothenburg, Sweden is the second biggest city in Sweden. You get treated like you're in the NHL. It's their NHL. It's the league's unbelievable. The hockey players that come out of there, obviously you see every year the kids getting drafted out of that league.
Yep.
It's such a high skill, high pace league, but it's also really defensive. So you see, like, I was so used to getting so many points. I had 15 that year. So I knew I didn't have enough points to get a good contract coming back. So I talked to them. They were like, you're going to be one of our best defensemen. You're going to be on the first power play. You're going to get more points. You're going to get more reps. We love you here. You like it here. Just stay here another year. See what happens. So that was what I did. I signed another year. So.
And then it did kind of work out
because
you ended up getting an NHL deal.
So this is what happened. So after that year, I had a good year in the Sweden.
27.
Yeah. 52. And then, so it was like, do I want to come back and get another chance? Or do I want to go to the KHL? I had offers in the KHL or other places in Europe. So I got a contract. I agreed to go to Kunlun. They were still in China. So I got the contract. I agreed to a net amount and typical Russian, like, translation, the Russian agent, there was translation issues. I got the contract. It was a gross amount. So there would have been taxes taken out of it. So I would have made a lot less.
Yeah.
30% less.
Yeah. So my agent was like, it must just be an issue on the contract. I'll send it back. So I was about to sign it. Like, I had the contract. I was going to sign it. Hallie, my wife, was like, this says gross. Like, you shouldn't sign this. You agreed to a net amount. This is a lot less. Do not sign it. So I told my agent, he was like, yeah, it must just be, they must have just not changed it. So he sent it back and he was like, no, I guess the Russian agent tried to pull a fast one on us. He said gross. And I was like, well, this
the business side of hockey right there.
I was like, I don't really want to deal with this because
Of course.
You already know right away it's going to be sketchy.
It's going to be sketchy. They didn't know where they were going to play. Like half the time they're in Beijing, half the time they were in wherever else. And so it was like a risk to begin with. I had just had, we had, what year was that? That was, so yeah, so we had my son, my first son already, Dean.
Dean the Machine.
The Machine, yeah. So it was like, would they come over with me? We don't know where we're gonna live. So when that happened, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try this.
Yeah.
So my agent was like, okay, let me make some phone calls. I talked to a couple NHL teams. I talked to Nashville, Calgary, a couple other teams, and he was like, okay, maybe that's a sign you give this NHL another chance. Like you're, I don't know, 27, 28 at this point. I was like, I do want to give the NHL another chance. I want to come back and try it. He was like, okay, Milwaukee's offering a contract if you play well. They said they'll turn it into an NHL deal, and that's what happened. I signed in Milwaukee and started off really hot, had a really good start to the season, and that's when my agent called and was like, hey, they want to turn this to an NHL deal.
Yeah, and what was it like for you getting back in the NHL lineup for Nashville? You had 2 games played, you had 1 assist. I mean, that first game back must have been like, wow, like it kind of worked, my plan. Like I went to Sweden, I wanted to come back, I wanted to get a better deal, play in the NHL again, and like I'm here.
Yep, that was the whole goal, was that I wanted to be back in the NHL. It didn't matter, like obviously you want to be back and be a mainstay and earn a bunch of money, but like it had been 4 years since I played in the NHL. Like you grow so much in those 4 years, and you understand how hard it is to get to the NHL and what it takes. So it was like a dream come true all over again to get called up. And my son was there and got to see me play in the NHL. So it was it was a cool experience.
That's cool. I mean, 27, 28 years old, that's when you're hitting your prime.
Yeah.
So you started your pro career, then you play a few years, go overseas, and then you hit your prime back in the NHL. And you mentioned Dean was there. You're a father to about to be 3.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what being a dad has meant to your hockey career?
Yeah, I mean, it changes everything. You do everything for yourself and for my wife, who was with me the whole time. And then you add kids to it, it changes everything. You're doing everything for them now. Yes, you need to earn money for them, but you want to create a good life for them. You don't want to stop playing and maybe not earn as much, and your mindset changes.
You don't want to take the comfortable life.
Yeah.
You don't want to settle and be stuck at home like, I'm dragging Sid to Newfoundland, across the world. Like, you want to live the life. You want to chase your dreams and reach your highest potential while you're still young and you can. And so I just think that you have the kids while you're still playing doesn't change what you want to do. Might just change what you do with what hockey gives you and your summers and things like that.
And your perspective too, like your perspective, that second time you go to the NHL, now you have a kid and it's like, wow, like my kid gets to see me playing the NHL. It's more of a dream because it's more than just you getting to play in the NHL. Now it's like my little kid seeing me. Like it's another dream, right? Like my dream is to play in the NHL, but then I have another dream, which is for my kids to see me play in the NHL.
Yeah. So another good story about that is when I was called up to Nashville, Hallie was pregnant with Lawson, our second son. He was due any day. I was in Nashville by myself. She was back here in Milwaukee. So she was like, hey, we need to figure this out. Like, you can't just be playing. And I was like, I told her, hey, I saw the first one. If I'm playing in the NHL, you're on your own. You're on your own. Yeah. But luckily, I was a 7th D in Nashville. So I was getting healthy scratch. So she was like, okay, I'm gonna get induced. I'm gonna schedule it so where you have a day off, you can fly back. So I got healthy scratched one night. I knew I I was going to be healthy scratch. So I showed up. I asked them. I was like, "Hey, my wife's getting induced tomorrow. We have a day off. Can I fly back to Milwaukee tonight, the night of the game?" They're like, "Yeah, just show up for warmups, make sure no one gets hurt, and then you're good to go." So I show up for warmups with my bag packed, and they're like, "Yep, no one's hurt, you're good to go." Go to the airport, fly to Milwaukee the next morning. She gets induced, have the baby. The team, Nashville, goes on a West Coast trip to California. So the next morning I fly to California to meet the team, and she's on her own.
Oh my goodness.
So I was in the NHL when Lawson was born.
Wow.
Which is a cool thing
That-
to say.
Yeah, that's
Very
awesome.
cool.
And then the following year, you were back in Milwaukee for the full year, and then you ended up going back to Sweden.
Yep, that was the COVID year.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
COVID.
So Milwaukee was one of 2 teams that opted out
Yeah,
of playing. So
because of no fans.
yeah, because of COVID. And so I was kind of in a tough spot. I had to figure out where I was going to play because I was on an AHL only deal. So yeah, this team in Sweden,
HV71.
HV71 called. Another great place to play, closer for Lunda. Unfortunately, they got relegated that year. I broke my leg that year, so I only played, I don't know how many games I played.
12
Yeah,
games.
another 12
Wow.
game season. Broke my leg. So I was just watching them lose and get relegated, which sucked because they brought me over to help them not get relegated because
Yeah.
they were at
Yeah.
the bottom. So it was unfortunate, but they actually won and they're back up in the USHL now. So
So the following year, you end up going back to Milwaukee. So at this point, were you like, Milwaukee's kind of a home base a
yeah,
little
so
bit?
I had signed a new 2-year deal with Milwaukee, and then they opted out, so that canceled the first year of it. So I knew I was coming back, I think.
Do you get double paid? So do you get paid by Milwaukee and SHL?
No,
They just don't pay you.
they just canceled the contract. That's what happened with everyone
Mm.
That's brutal.
that COVID year.
I didn't even
Yeah.
realize that. Everyone
Yeah.
got their contracts canceled.
Yeah.
Nobody made money
Nope.
unless you went to go play somewhere else.
Yeah, so I had to go play somewhere else.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the next year I came back to Milwaukee.
That's where I met you
Yeah,
in the summer, training before our season. I had just signed in Milwaukee for this same year, so we're gonna play together. We're gonna be teammates.
yeah,
We're training, we're getting after it, 3-on-3. Then we go to camp together.
yeah,
Nashville brings all the American League contracts to camp,
yeah,
which is very cool. We grind there, camp for a couple weeks, live in the hotel life.
yeah.
We come back from camp. Did you come back a little later than everybody? Or were you on that initial bus ride to the airport at 6 a.m. from the hotel with like 15 of
No.
us?
Because I got COVID.
Yeah, that's what happened.
I got COVID.
Earned yourself a couple extra days.
Exactly what happened.
14 days.
So that was when we were still testing every day or whatever.
You show up and you test, and then
Yeah.
you can complete your day.
And I was like one of 2 guys that tested positive for COVID. And so I had to stay away from the rink for 3 days, I think it was.
'Cause
So I
they
was
were-
just walking around Nashville by myself. I couldn't hang out with anyone. I couldn't go out to eat. I was just walking around Nashville. So yeah, so I think they kept me there a couple days.
Made you retest and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah, and I got to practice a couple more days. Just I think maybe just to have extra bodies there. I don't know, and because I didn't get to practice the last couple days, so yeah, I stayed there a couple more days and then came back to Milwaukee.
Me and Dono had a hell of a summer leading up to that. I'm talking 3 months of 4 days a week on the ice. I make the AHL opening day lineup for my first year, and first game of the season, shot pass, second period from Dono, ends up being the game-winning goal. My first goal, backhand tip,
I remember.
or for the ads, it turned out to be game winner,
Yeah.
game one of the season.
I
Just
forgot about that.
Just a great connection, high tip in the slot. I'm sure we practiced it 1,000 times
Yep.
during the summer, but I thought that was really cool.
That's
Get me on the
sick.
board. I'm like, yes, Donovan
Yeah.
just kept me in the lineup for a couple more games.
Yeah, you never forget like your first assist. Like I know my first pro assist. I know
First
my
assist,
first
no,
cue-
no, no, first,
no,
first.
no, I know the people that assisted your first.
Oh
goal.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I-
yeah,
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I know. My first Q assist, Boko Imama.
really?
Yeah.
Wow, you just
And
signed a big
Valino
deal, dude.
secondary. Yeah,
Wow.
Ottawa. Shout out to Boko. But So then you go to the Dell. I mean,
Yeah.
those are two great leagues in Europe, SHL and Dell.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about the differences between them and how the Dell experience was for you?
Yeah, it was a good experience. We wanted to go back to Europe eventually, just because we had such a good experience the first time. We got to travel. The season's not as long, so you get more time off. And obviously, once you're in Europe, it's so easy to go everywhere else. So you got to see a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
You get to experience new cultures. The difference between the SHL and the Dell is the hockey's a lot different. The Dell is way more North American style. High flips, chips off the boards, the glass. SHL is very puck possession, lots of skating. Like you tell people it's a lot of skating. It's not just because the rink is bigger, Olympic size. It's because you have to skate. Like everyone's flying around.
I'm more of a Dell guy. So
Yeah, I think you are. So yeah, that's the main difference is
and how do they treat you there?
Really well, really well. So like I played in Mannheim, and it's known for being one of the better organizations. You get treated like you're in the NHL. Like the facilities are top notch. The travel's pretty easy. The staff is really good.
You guys bus or fly in that league?
Bus most of the time. I think we flew a handful of times just because we were so far from Berlin. But I think that was the only. And we would train to Berlin sometimes.
That's crazy, like Berlin. Like just playing hockey in those places just seems so awesome. And did you and your wife and the kids get to do those like little trips? I know all those guys that play there do little trips.
Yep. So I want to say it was November. In November, we went to, you get a week off for international breaks. So we went to Ireland and saw pretty much all of Ireland.
Nice.
Really cool. It's pretty cool. The kids got to experience seeing a bunch of different things. We went to, we were 3 hours from Switzerland, so we would drive to Switzerland. We drove maybe 3 or 4 times. We went to Switzerland, saw a bunch of different places in Switzerland. Where else did we go?
What's your favorite place you saw?
The Guinness factory, probably in Ireland.
Yeah. Tried to get my boys to try the Guinness, fresh Guinness, but they wouldn't try it. No, it was I don't know. Ireland was beautiful. We stayed at a place called Adair Manor, and they're having the Ryder Cup there in 2027.
Oh, so it's a nice spot. NHL spot.
It was unbelievable.
NHL vacation.
It was unbelievable. Yeah. The nicest place I've ever been to.
That's awesome. And then now you're back in the US.
Yeah.
I mean, congrats.
Thank you.
New contract with the Chicago Wolves.
Yep.
Independent team for those who don't know, which is awesome for guys that are signing there. Just talk about like what played into that decision coming back to the US. Obviously, you got a baby coming soon.
Yeah.
That probably has something to do with it.
That has a lot to do with it. Yeah, that threw a wrench in the plans, definitely. Baby due end of July.
Nice.
So we knew that either the whole plan, I wanted to experience the KHL if I could get into Russia, just to say that I'd done it.
Right.
You hear all the stories, and
you would have checked off, the top 3 leagues in Europe.
Yeah. Well, other than Switzerland's really tough to get into. But yeah, I told my agent, hey, I'll have this baby, tell Russian teams all come over in October, November, December, somewhere in there. So I'll miss the hard training camp.
Yeah. Genius.
So I'm gonna miss the training camp. Hopefully I'd make some good money and I'd get to experience Russia. But obviously that's not a great idea right now.
Right.
With the whole war thing. So my agent was like, I'm not letting you go to Russia.
That's good agent there.
So the only other option I was going to do that anywhere in Europe. It would have ended up maybe being back in the DL or wherever, but my family would stay here because we had a newborn. The kids would be in school. So I would have gone over by myself, which would have sucked. Or I sign back in Milwaukee or somewhere close like Chicago to where I could stay home, be home with the kids, and my family could just live a normal life and stay here. And luckily that's what happened. Yeah,
that's awesome. Like Chicago Wolves, I have a buddy who just signed there too. You guys are going to be good. But I want to talk a little bit about, your kids. Like Dean the Machine Donovan. I saw like great basement setup you got for him. 2 questions. One, when's his draft? NHL draft?
I have no clue.
You don't even know yet? You're not even prepping it yet?
Hold on.
I don't know when my draft was. I don't even know when his-
Was he born in Oklahoma too?
No, he was born in Rochester when I played in Rochester.
Rochester. He's more of a hockey guy than you are.
Yeah, he is. He is.
At camp, he shows up half the days as a goalie and half the days as a player. I try to shoot the puck as hard as I can at him when he's a goalie,
Yeah.
make him get out of the net.
Yeah,
Say, Dean, you want to be the one that shoots the puck,
yeah,
not the one that gets hit by the puck.
yeah.
What about you? You definitely don't want him to be a goalie.
No,
No.
I think it's a phase though. Kids like
It's
goalies.
gotta be a phase. I don't know what his obsession is with it. I think just
The
because
gear.
he gets to stand there.
He gets to catch the puck.
Lazy, I
and
don't
just have it go
know.
up.
Dad, I don't have to skate. This position's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that might be what it is, but hopefully it's just a phase.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I just wanted to say this isn't really a question, but I guess it is. Did you get him on that guitar, Sally? Because I saw that's his
Guitar
that's his
Sally.
go-to.
He watches a lot of YouTube. He wakes up early and goes downstairs and turns on YouTube, and he must have got it from there because
Best
I'm not a big
Sally.
cellier, so
Yeah.
he must have got it.
Yeah, you
He's
did,
been there.
you did the walk-off, Sally. I saw you last game. Yeah, the 3v3 game.
Yeah.
You scored a shootout and you walked
No,
out.
I just told him I had to leave, so that's what I did.
He's like, he's literally, I'm like, Donna, you got to score before you leave. He goes, he scores. Like, all right, I got to go pick the kid up from golf.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Screw your dad.
That's awesome. Well, I don't have anything left, but I can't wait to see
I
that
do.
guitar Sally in the NHL. Z, you got something?
Yeah, I do. You're wearing the hat. I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
When did squash hockey start for you? Can you talk a little bit about squash hockey and
Yeah.
tell us about it? Because that's my employer and
Yeah.
best employer in Wisconsin for the summer camps, Wisconsin.
Yeah. USM Summer Hockey School for all you kids that want to.
Get better and
Get
get the
better.
best training possible
Yes.
in the summer.
From pro guys.
In the Wisconsin / Chicago /
Like
Minnesota.
Green Bay area.
Yeah.
Oh wow, you got a couple.
Worth the
no,
drive.
no.
But you
It's
can
all-
drive in. You can drive in. Yeah.
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 There's no place.
The best coaches.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So squash hockey coach. So I would help with camps when I would come back for the summers when I was in USHL or wherever. I would help with other guys' camps as like a instructor and help the little kids. And then when I was in college, my dad was like, you should do your own camp. Help the little kids out, give back. You can make a little money, but it's important that you give back to the hockey community where you grew up and show these kids that you can make it.
Mhm.
So that's where it started. Well, Scotch Hockey Code didn't really start until I was in my pro, but I started doing camps and private lessons when I was in college to make a little bit of money
Mhm.
because you need money in college.
No NIL or NLI at the time.
No.
And more importantly, to give back to the kids of Oklahoma, the players of Oklahoma. So that's where it started. And then when I think I was in Sweden, it came up with the name Squash Hockey Co. My friends and I thought Sasquatches were funny. And it's a funny idea of seeing Sasquatches, and it ties into Oklahoma because there's a lot of sightings in Oklahoma.
It's true.
It's a unique name, so I went with it. Squash Hockey Co. was born, and it just turned into those summer camps that I was doing turned into Squash Hockey Co.
Yeah.
And the lessons and stuff like that. And then it's kind of grown from there. We started doing apparel but our main thing is it's still to give back.
Mhm.
I try and go back to Oklahoma at least once or twice a summer and do camps there. Obviously it's hard this summer with the baby coming, but that was the main reason where it started, was to give back to the kids of Oklahoma. And now it's grown to Wisconsin and
Yep.
Milwaukee area. And we just want to give, like the camp now is give a good experience to the kids. We talk about it all the time. You see all these camps where the kids are on the ice 2 times a day. They're doing stick handling. They're working out. Their parents are paying all this money to where these kids are getting worn. It's the middle of summer. They don't need that. So we started this summer program where they're on the ice twice a week. they're doing other stuff off the ice, kickball, baseball, playing other sports, doing agility, having fun is the main thing.
Yeah.
Like it's the middle of summer. These kids don't need to get worn out being on the ice twice a day.
No,
Yeah.
it's that healthy balance of working on your skills, still getting on the ice, but
Being
also
a kid.
being a kid and being athletic and
Yep.
getting outside. And I'd say we got an absolute great thing going, and it's just a start.
Yeah, and to go back to the camp now is I try and give these kids such a good experience and a different experience. Like you go to other camps where it's the same instructors, they're high school kids or whatever, putting these kids through drills. We're pro hockey players. We've been doing this for a long time. So we have good coaches. And I also bring in other guest coaches
Yeah, you
that
do.
are unbelievable.
You had an NHL coach,
Yeah.
a player development coach, and an NHL player all in the same week talk to the kids.
Yep.
That doesn't happen around the country everywhere.
No, you don't get that anywhere else. So
No, that's awesome. Squatch hockey.
yep.
I gotta buy a hat.
Oh,
Oh, all right.
Hold up a hat to the YouTube. So my dad watches the YouTube, so he's gonna like that logo.
There you go,
I'll give him
Ken.
a hat.
All right, well, thanks, Donald.
yep.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Jack,
me.
you got something else?
No, pleasure. You're the man.
Thanks, boys.